Oh no, she's done it again. Meghan Markle has just made the judge of Australian MasterChef, a household name, beloved figure in Australia, Poh Ling Yeow, cry during filming.
Meghan Markle is attempting to distract by showing a series of holiday photos, her summer holiday photos, on Instagram, despite reports that she made one of the co-hosts on MasterChef basically cry.
She bullied people in a very unpleasant way over here.
Right, so she has supposedly done it again. The MasterChef Australia episode has not even aired yet, and the chatter coming out of Sydney is already looking messy. According to the online buzz, Meghan Markle is said to have made one of the show's judges cry on set, right there in front of everyone.
This woman is really not oppressed. She's opportunistic.
A woman named Poh Ling Yeow was left in tears over just one word, and if you have followed this story for the past 8 years, the reaction probably does not surprise you. People online keep pointing to the same pattern. Someone gets upset, and she walks away smiling for the cameras. Same formula, new city.
She seems to be an incredibly popular figure in Australia. And given Meghan's track record, I am inclined to believe that these sources to New Idea are correct. She was simply trying to make Meghan feel comfortable, trying to be warm, and you saw that look. Meghan hated her.
So here is the whole picture. The judge, who was said to be in tears, the cooking show that apparently landed with a flat 0, the fashion event where she was seen giggling after a young woman fell, and the 8-year trail of people online claim have been left upset. This one is a wild ride, and that is exactly why people keep locking on to every little detail, because once a story like this starts moving online, every reaction gets magnified. Supporters say the criticism is being blown out of proportion, while others argue the same old pattern is what keeps pulling attention back in. Nothing here has been officially raised questions about beyond the online chatter, but the discussion is already running hot. That is where the tension comes from, the line between a harmless on-set moment and another wave of public backlash. Some viewers are reading it as awkward timing, others see it as part of a much bigger image problem, and the debate is only getting louder as more people weigh in.
The narcissism and the lack of perspective from this woman is astounding. Let's not forget that Meghan Markle has a well-established track record of bullying. She thought nothing of bullying Princess Charlotte, a 3-year-old little girl. She thought that character building. But when it comes and it's flipped on her, it's like, how dare you call me out for bullying somebody? Because in her mind, like all bullies, it's acceptable to harm others and never get called out for it.
Meghan Markle may have thought her appearance on Australian MasterChef would help, I guess, propel her image as a chef, and yet somehow the appearance has turned into master mess. Because according to reports, Meghan Markle made one of the co-hosts cry over the use of the word royalty, which is utterly bizarre as Meghan is obsessed with her own title.
Meghan reportedly flew into that MasterChef kitchen back in April to appear as a guest judge, with the public buzz painting her as sweet, warm, and very much one of the people. But before anything started, she apparently made one request clear: do not call her royalty. Not the word, not anywhere near her. And that is exactly why some viewers found the moment hard to ignore, since the same woman who puts Duchess of Sussex on everything she touches was suddenly said to be very cautious about the royal label.
Meghan Markle in New York, when she went to do an interview with somebody at a friend's house, she had her staff announced into the living room that Duchess of Sussex is coming. When she went to that restaurant in Beverly Hills or whatever the hell it was, she came in that little golf court, and the reporter said that her assistant announced to the world that Duchess of Sussex is coming. So are you telling me that Meghan Markle, who loves to remind people that she's ranked above everybody else in her mind, would have an issue with Judge Poh saying we have royalty in the house, because that's how Meghan sees herself?
Work that one out, because Sydney could not seem to. So Poh, being her usual lovely self, introduced Meghan on air as MasterChef royalty, clearly meant as a warm compliment and a friendly bit of praise, all with a big smile. But according to the online chatter, that was enough to make Meghan reportedly go cold in an instant. The word going around is that her team was not happy about it at all. People online say Poh felt embarrassed, wanted to walk over and apologize, and was told to just leave it alone, while a good part of what happened afterward was quietly trimmed out in the edit.
My belief, Lady C, is that this show actually contravenes the Sandringham Summit Agreement. And it was nothing to do with poor Poh saying royalty. It was to do with the fact that the entire challenge was called A Dish Fit for a Duchess. So there she is using her royal title. And my understanding, Lady C, is she wasn't doing this show for altruistic reasons. She was doing it for a big fat paycheck from Channel 10.
Some people are calling it a simple clash of personalities. But when a show ends up cutting its own footage of a headline guest, viewers naturally start reading that as more than a routine edit, even if the exact reasons remain unclear. And the challenge she set that day was to cook a dish fit for a duchess. You really could not make that up. And that is why the whole thing keeps getting picked apart online, because once a moment like that gets clipped and shared, people start reading into every facial expression and every cut in the footage. Some viewers think the reaction was exaggerated by the internet, while others believe it fits a bigger pattern of awkward public appearances and tense media moments. Nothing has been officially raised questions about beyond the online discussion, but that has not slowed the chatter one bit. What makes it linger is how quickly a small on-set exchange turned into a wider conversation about image, etiquette, and how carefully every public move gets watched. In that kind of spotlight, even a simple introduction can get turned into a headline, and the reaction around it says as much about the audience as it does about the moment itself. The edit, the silence, and the sudden change in mood are exactly the kind of details people online keep circling back to.
Including these pictures showing that vile look, the type of look that she used to shoot at Catherine and Prince Harry all the time, just days before the airing of the show, which was meant to be a big moment for the fake Duchess.
According to the online chatter, she had contestants working over a hot stove as if she were royalty, even though that was the very title she had apparently asked people not to use earlier. That contrast is exactly what some viewers latched onto. And then came the detail people keep pointing at. The contestants reportedly kept going past Meghan to ask the other judges for help. They brought in one of the biggest names in the spotlight, placed her front and center, and yet some viewers felt the cooks treated her more like background decor than a headline guest.
Using her Duchess title in order to make money in the entertainment industry. So the fact poor Poh mentioned the word royalty is totally irrelevant to that. It's the use of the word and the term Duchess as part of a challenge in a reality TV show, which I think would have left the late Queen Elizabeth II completely horrified.
Why would a warm, funny, much-loved woman like Poh end up looking so shaken standing next to her? The online chatter has a simple theory. Meghan does not seem to enjoy being outshone. Poh walked in with a brighter presence and, by many accounts, a stronger level of public affection than Meghan has ever really managed to command, and that is where people think the tension started. Some viewers say that same pattern shows up again and again today. But first, there is one small question that people around Montecito would probably rather avoid. Can this woman actually cook?
Meghan Markle claps back and says that she doesn't understand why the judge Poh would be upset. She had a wonderful experience, never from the point of view of the bully, because she's only thinking of herself.
What I do have is a very particular set of skills. Skills I have acquired over a very long career. Skills like, just give me a sec.
Writing stuff on bananas?
Let's look at the numbers everyone keeps pointing to. Her high-profile Netflix cooking series, the one many saw as a major comeback move, ended up with a rare 0% score from critics. Not low, 0. That is the kind of result that gets people talking, because a score like that usually means the reviews were not just mixed, they were overwhelmingly negative. And that is exactly why people keep revisiting this whole moment, because once the conversation turns to reputation, even the smallest detail starts carrying extra weight. Online critics are not just looking at what happened on set, they are reading into how it fits into the bigger picture around her public image, her media strategy, and the way every appearance seems to come with its own wave of reactions. Some viewers argue that the criticism gets blown out of proportion, but others say the pattern is hard to ignore, especially when a polished presentation is followed by such a strong backlash. That kind of split reaction is what keeps the story alive. It is not just about one episode, one clip, or one awkward exchange. It is about how quickly the internet turns a brief moment into a larger narrative. And once that happens, every new project, every public appearance, and every bit of feedback gets pulled back into the same debate, whether people think it is fair or not. The chatter has clearly moved past simple curiosity, and now it is sitting right in that uncomfortable space where image, expectation, and public reaction all collide.
I don't think anybody at Netflix could have seen the show before it went out, because it's not entertainment, it's not edifying in any way. It's really, really bizarre.
And when Netflix apparently gave her a second season, that project also struggled to land. Some reviewers argued that the only reason anyone might have checked it out was the slim chance Harry could appear in the background. Even then, it reportedly could not break into Netflix's top 300 shows. 300! For some viewers, that made the whole thing look less like a must-watch royal moment and more like the kind of program people would rather skip entirely.
I think her PR team launched out with some feelers, trying to see who might be somewhat interested in her appearance. And she was like, yes, let's do MasterChef. Because one of the things Meghan Markle has tried to do, and we've gone over this, but it's worth reiterating, is that she has a business based in the kitchen. She has a show based in the kitchen. But unfortunately for the woman, I don't think she enjoys being in the kitchen. And that's a really, really hard sell.
And here is the part people keep circling back to. She still talks about that show as if it were a runaway success, still presents herself as a cook, a host, and a lifestyle figure. But with a flat 0 showing on the board, online critics have questioned why she is still acting like it was a major win. Then there is the copycat conversation. Some viewers have accused her of borrowing heavily from Martha Stewart, down to the overall look and feel of the project. The claim remains disputed online, but it has definitely added another layer to the chatter.
What is it like to watch other celebrities, Gwyneth Paltrow, Meghan Markle, going in your footsteps and following something that you've really started?
I don't mind. Good luck. Meghan, I don't really know very well.
Others have also claimed she may have taken inspiration from Pamela Anderson's cooking show, with some viewers saying the resemblance felt almost incident for incident. And when someone put that question directly to Martha Stewart, Martha did not really jump into a defense. She kept it classy, stayed above the noise, and let the silence speak for itself. That quiet response seemed to say a lot. And that is why the conversation keeps refusing to settle down. Once people start comparing a project, a public image, and a string of mixed reactions, every little detail gets picked apart online. Some commentators see it as normal celebrity criticism, while others think the backlash says more about the audience than the person being discussed. Either way, the discussion has moved far beyond one show and into a much bigger debate about perception, branding, and how quickly praise can turn into pushback. What makes it even harder to cool off is the way these stories keep getting recycled. A new headline comes in, and suddenly, older complaints, older comparisons, and older assumptions all get pulled back into the same conversation. That is the cycle here. The reaction becomes the story, then the story becomes another reason for people to question what they are seeing. And for someone trying to present a polished, aspirational image, that kind of scrutiny can linger far longer than any single clip or episode.
Meghan Markle disputing the frustration report. No, why would Yeow say that? Why would Chef Poh say that? I had a great time. It was fine for me, just like it would be fine for the bully in high school, brutally harassing, punching his or her victim. Because Meghan Markle is a known bully. It's the levels of narcissism that Meghan Markle cannot conceive to actually admit that she is a monster.
When two different women look at your work and both seem to say, "That feels a lot like mine," people are bound to notice. Some online critics have gone further and suggested that this is becoming a pattern, not just a one-off coincidence. And the part that really keeps getting repeated is the claim that she barely cooks at home, because staff are said to handle that side of things. According to those conversations, trained chefs are brought in to make the show look polished, while she stands nearby, nods along, and takes the spotlight. She has even said herself that she still has plenty to learn in the kitchen, and that admission has only made the contrast more noticeable. Plenty to learn. So when she is seen on live TV judging real chefs who have spent years, even decades, building their craft, it naturally becomes a talking point online.
She's not actually dumb. You know, she is just nails down a chalkboard for me because there's nothing about her that's real. Every time you see her do a speech, every time you see an appearance from her, she's a completely different personality. And this is a woman that, you know, turned around and said, actually, I'm too busy to cook, but I do really know how to make a takeaway look pretty. Let me guess, what, sprinkle some flower petals on it? You know, even that, it's like, oh, look, flower petals. Everybody think of me. You know, I sell flower petals, don't you? It's just going to be really, really bad.
According to the online chatter, this is the kind of presentation some critics have been mocking, tipping shop-bought pretzels into a prettier bowl and treating it like a full recipe. Then there is the fruit on a board moment, with a few dried flowers scattered on top, and the way it is framed like something far more serious than it really is. Cook from the heart, she tells people, again and again. Cook from the heart. And that line lands very differently for viewers who are actually cooking for a living, under time pressure, with cameras rolling and the heat on. Honestly, a lot of viewers said they clocked the mismatch straight away. One person put it bluntly, "I changed a light bulb yesterday. Does that make me an electrician?" Another chimed in, "Cutting up fruit and putting it on a plate does not make you a chef." And those were just two of the many comments repeating the same basic point.
She's just someone, you know, cooked up a few dishes and thinks that makes her an expert at cookery, at entertaining, at all things domestic. It's rubbish, isn't it?
Some critics online have said she is acting like a role she did not really earn, and that the attention around it feels almost like people are being asked to pay for the spectacle. They have even coined a term for it now, getting markled, as fans keep repeating it. And whenever she gets involved with a charity, a brand, or even a cooking show, online commentary tends to turn it into a joke, with her name attached to the backlash. And that is exactly why this latest wave of criticism is landing so hard online. It is not just about one scene or one recipe, it is about the larger image people think they are being shown. Once viewers start feeling that something is polished for effect rather than built on real skill, the conversation tends to shift fast from admiration to skepticism. That is where the debate gets sticky, because every small moment starts carrying extra weight. Supporters argue that a TV appearance is only a snapshot, and that editing, staging, and online assumptions can distort the bigger picture. Critics, on the other hand, keep pointing to the same kinds of details and saying the presentation feels carefully managed. So the reaction keeps splitting in two, with one side dismissing it as overblown chatter, and the other side treating it as proof that people are finally seeing through the image.
When we did our parody of Meghan's stupid Netflix show, trying to make herself into the next Martha Stewart, and we realized her one-pot pasta is just a blatant ripoff of Martha Stewart's one-pot pasta, which turned out to be like one of her most famous recipes. And it's honestly just like unabashed ripoff. I'm sure Martha's heard about it and is probably like, who is this fool trying to imitate that she's me, as she, out of the other side of her mouth, complains about how her castle is too small.
So, according to the criticism online, she is not really being viewed as a cook here, but more like a brand in an apron. Still, not knowing your way around the kitchen is hardly a crime. Plenty of famous people cannot even boil an egg, and most viewers would simply leave that there. The more troubling part, critics say, is how she comes across to real people around her, and that is where the conversation starts to turn sharper.
Well, interesting. What I learned about myself is no matter what my name is, or what people call me, I'm still the same person.
Meghan, off.
Some viewers have suggested that other people's bad moments somehow make her look more amused than concerned. Just think back to Paris Fashion Week, at that big Balenciaga show, with the front row packed and cameras everywhere. A model came down the runway, stumbled, and went down in front of the whole crowd. It was an awful moment for that young woman, and the clip had people talking because Meghan was caught on camera appearing to laugh a little, or at least that is how many viewers interpreted it. And then there was one more detail that really made the reaction spiral.
Did you see this moment right here? It was almost as cringe. She thinks something is funny. It clearly isn't. Turns to Marcus Anderson, her gay BFF who's behind all of this, wanting him to join in. He's like, no way. Just turn around. Behave. I've got this gig for you, you stupid woman. Just behave. And then she's furious.
The second she seemed to notice that the cameras had caught her, the expression changed fast, back to sweet and sympathetic, almost as if nothing had happened. She found the camera, as she often appears to do, and the clip spread everywhere. Online, people called it everything from bad manners to a mean-spirited moment, with some viewers saying it looked like a grown woman laughing at a young model falling at work, while others pushed back and said the footage was being read too harshly. Still, the reaction was intense, and critics treated it as another glimpse of the same image problem they keep talking about. And this is not being framed online as some one-off at a single event. Every time she steps out in public lately, there seems to be a new click, a new clip, and a fresh round of debate. That is why the response keeps growing beyond the usual celebrity chatter. Once people decide a public appearance says something about character, every little gesture gets picked apart, and every pause starts to mean more than it probably should. Online, that kind of reading can take off fast, especially when viewers already feel unsure about the image being presented. Supporters keep saying the clips are being judged too quickly, and that a few seconds on camera cannot tell the whole story. Critics, though, are not letting it go because they see a pattern in the way these moments are being discussed and shared. To them, it is less about one awkward scene and more about the broader impression left behind. And that is where the conversation gets even more complicated. The more the footage circulates, the more people begin attaching their own meanings to it, whether fair or not. So instead of fading out, the debate keeps getting refreshed by every replay, every reaction post, and every new wave of commentary.
It doesn't work for you to shoulders back, breasts out, headlights going, and try to look as bitchy as possible.
Did you see what she was said to have done? Another wave of people kept landing on the same three words, so hard to like, and that phrase keeps coming back for a reason. Now people say they can finally see why. Put lovely Poh beside that, a warm, generous woman, admired by an entire country, standing in Meghan's spotlight, and the reaction was always going to be intense. Meghan, at least in the way critics describe her online, does not seem to share the stage easily. She has to be the warmest person in the room, the smartest, the most admired. And if someone gets in the way of that, even by accident, even by simply being more naturally liked, some viewers believe she would shut them out and seem to enjoy the distance.
There could have been something that could have been misconstrued. The judge actually wanted to reach out and apologize to Meghan Markle. I don't know why, but she felt the need to do so. But in Meghan Markle's head, how dare you complain? Just complaining about me being a bully? That is egregious. How dare you? You are cut off. You don't have access to me anymore. It's just like her father, what she did to her father.
This is the same public image people keep talking about, the big "be kind" message, the one that comes with lectures about online cruelty. But according to the online chatter, the behind-the-scenes version is very different, with claims that she left a beloved judge in tears and appeared to laugh when a model was on the floor. So, to critics, the polished image is just that, an image. They say the colder side is what never really gets shown. And here is the blunt version people keep repeating online. Every time this woman steps into a room full of people, someone seems to leave upset. At least, that is how the criticism is being framed. Yet every time, the same explanations get rolled out. A misunderstanding, they say, maybe just a clash of egos. Then, conveniently, people start pointing to a bad edit.
She's walking around like she's the She's got her arms flowing. She's really feeling her oats. Woman, please go back to California and be with your children and go and find a career other than just being desperate for attention every single day.
Nothing to see here. That is what people keep hearing. But after a while, that line starts sounding harder and harder to believe. Poh was never really about bad luck, at least not in the way critics are framing it online. And if someone is crying at work, some viewers say it has become part of the same pattern people keep talking about. So if you think this all started with a cooking show, take a step back, because the online discussion says this goes back years. That is why the reaction has not cooled off, even with people admitting they are only working off clips, reactions, and a whole lot of online reading between the lines. Once a public image starts feeling shaky, every small moment gets treated like evidence, and that is exactly what is happening here. The discussion is no longer just about one show or one awkward exchange. It is about the way people interpret her entire public presence. Supporters keep pushing back, saying the internet is turning ordinary camera moments into a bigger story than they should be. But critics say the repeated debate is the point, because it shows how little trust some viewers still have in the polished version being presented. So the same arguments keep circling. One side calling it overreaction, the other side saying the pattern is hard to ignore. And that is why the chatter keeps spreading. Even when no one can verify every detail, the commentary keeps building on itself, and the story starts to feel bigger than the original clip. In other words, the conversation is not slowing down, it is only getting more layered as people keep adding their own interpretation to it.
The fallout between Meghan Markle and Catherine, the Princess of Wales, this was way back in 2018 when no one knew any of this publicly. Only people within the royal family knew the way that Meghan was going on about people within the British royal family. And Catherine had turned on Meghan Markle specifically because of the way that she was bullying staff within the grounds of Kensington Palace.
Take it back to 2018, when Meghan was still the fresh new face. The palace was said to be making every effort to keep things smooth, and, according to later chatter, her own staff were already heading for the exit. This is where people say the well-known fallout with Kate really started. And forget the tidy version people love to repeat about a bridesmaid dress, because online discussions say the deeper issue was how Meghan allegedly treated the people working beneath her. It apparently got serious enough that a senior aide put concerns in writing, with a formal complaint on record saying Meghan had bullied 2 of her assistants out of the household. Out, gone, and both were said to have left within a year.
We just heard how Yeow tried to have a sense of humor with her in the kitchen, and yet Meghan Markle was having none of it. I guess for Meghan Markle, sense of humor means mocking somebody like she did Princess Charlotte or even Princess Catherine or anybody around who has worked with her. Yeah, that is Meghan Markle's sense of humor, denigrating, mocking people, sending them to see a shrink.
These were professionals, some with decades of royal service behind them, and according to the criticism online, they decided that a palace job was not worth staying in the same room with her. Before most people even knew her face, some staff were already using a nickname for her, Duchess Difficult. One assistant is said to have lasted only about 6 months. Another woman brought in to steady things reportedly compared working for the Sussexes to babysitting 2 teenagers, then left at the first real chance she had. When the people hired to keep everything quiet start quietly walking away, critics say that says a lot. And, as the online discussion keeps pointing out, nothing meaningful ever seemed to come from it.
She wants to showcase that image to the world that she is the one who's the boss, but she's not really the boss.
Harry reportedly pushed for the whole matter to be dropped. A review was carried out, then, according to the online discussion, the result was kept under wraps. Those findings have still never been made public, which critics find very convenient. But the women who walked away were real, and they were only the beginning. And that is the part people keep circling back to, because once those internal concerns start leaking into public conversation, the whole image changes fast. What may have looked like a single workplace complaint gets read online as part of a much bigger pattern, whether that is fair or not. That is why every new rumor, every old clip, and every fresh reaction gets pulled into the same conversation. Supporters say the story is being stretched far beyond what has actually been raised questions about, and they argue that a lot of this is just internet hindsight. Critics, though, keep pointing to the fact that the allegations never really disappeared, they just sat there in the background while the public debate moved on. So when another controversial moment gets linked back to the same name, people are quick to see a larger thread, even if the details remain disputed. That is the real force behind the reaction. Not just one incident, but the sense that the discussion keeps reopening old questions that never fully went away.
Harry just can't give her anything else anymore. He served his purpose. His purpose is over. So for her, it's time to move on.
The reporter that actually revealed the HR documentation between senior palace officials, revealing that there had been a number of HR complaints as a result of Meghan Markle's bullying of people, including PAs, that they were wanting to investigate.
And according to that online chatter, it just kept happening. The same kind of story, new city, every couple of years, almost like clockwork. By 2021, the reports circulating online were especially harsh. Palace staff were said to have ended up in tears, and some of the discussion made it sound like that had become part of the daily routine, which is exactly why people found it so striking. One aide, before a meeting with Meghan, reportedly told a colleague she could not stop shaking. shaking before seeing the woman who publicly talks about kindness. Then Meghan shifted to Hollywood, and, according to critics, the same complaints seemed to follow her straight there. People who worked inside the Montecito setup described her as extremely difficult to work for, at least based on what they were saying online.
MasterChef drama that's dropping before the even episode airs, which is so incredibly typical for Harry and Meghan, it seems, especially Meghan. Nothing but drama and toxicity follows this woman everywhere, because that's what she does a lot, is make people cry. You get the sense that Meghan lives with no stress in her life, or she's embellishing, which I think Meghan does so much, guys, is that there's kernels of truth in what she says pretty much always, but she always over embellishes.
Storming around, allegedly barking orders, and leaving grown men in tears, that is how the online chatter described it. Grown men too. And the staff who came out the other side did not exactly start a fan club. Instead, according to the discussion, they gave themselves a name, the Sussex Survivors Club. Survivors was the word they chose for themselves.
Once a bully, always a bully, isn't that right? That over a long period of time, across multiple continents, multiple countries, there have been a long, long list of Meghan's victims.
Then there is the charity that she and Harry put their names behind, which became tangled in a public bullying dispute that, according to papers at the time, lingered for weeks. Different setting, same messy fallout, and online chatter kept treating it like another chapter in the same pattern. Add the assistants, the aides, the producers, and the security guards, all quietly moving on. When people line it up, from the palace to Hollywood to a cooking show in Sydney, one after another, it starts to feel like the same story repeating itself. Even the people who follow these controversies for a living seem to have lost count. And that is exactly why the latest chatter is landing so hard online. Once a story gets tied to a bigger public image, people stop looking at it as just one isolated moment and start reading it like part of a larger pattern. Fair or not, that is how these conversations tend to spread, with each new claim getting measured against everything that came before it. So when people hear another round of behind-the-scenes tension, the reaction is rarely calm or neutral. Supporters push back and say the discussion is getting blown out of proportion, while critics point to the repeated complaints and argue that the pattern is hard to ignore. No official public explanation has settled the matter, which only leaves more room for speculation, commentary, and fresh debate. That is why this keeps hanging around. It is not just about one workplace story, one staff member, or one moment on one set. It is about the way online audiences connect the dots, then keep reconnecting them every time a new headline appears. And once that cycle starts, it becomes very hard to shake.
At the time, you saw Meghan try and say that this was all part of a witch hunt and was courtiers working against her with people like me. But indeed, as soon as she moved to Hollywood, we saw the same thing, with astonishing reports coming from Vanity Fair and Hollywood Reporter, and then the damning accusations from Dr. Sophie Chandoka of the Centre Bali organization, which are now due to be heard in court.
Think about that for a second, because the online chatter is not describing just one upset person over a long career. It is pointing to a whole string of complaints across different jobs and 3 separate continents. Of course, that does not prove anything on its own, but critics say it is why this latest name, Poh Ling Yeow, is being added to a list that some people believe began 8 years ago, far from where this story is unfolding now. And the moment this rumor broke during the week, people were already watching closely to see what Meghan would do next, because, to supporters and critics alike, that reaction was always going to say a lot.
She's not doing this for the money. Don't even suggest it. She's not doing this for the money. She's doing this because it is her love language, okay?
For most people, if they were accused of making someone cry, the instinct might be to stay quiet or send flowers. Meghan, according to the online chatter, seemed to answer with a distraction instead. Almost immediately, a polished story appeared in a certain American magazine, the one critics often describe as running like her personal PR outlet these days, insisting she had a fantastic time and that everyone loved her, with the source listed as someone close to Meghan. And of course, people noticed how convenient that timing looked. Someone close to Meghan, as the internet keeps pointing out, is not exactly a mystery.
Not surprised, Meghan has this reputation. And so now they have to go with a positive spin. Oh, no. Meghan had a great time on MasterChef Australia, sources say, disputing frustration report. It's just a propaganda outlet anymore. They're not really doing any real reporting. I don't really trust any of their royal reporting, except for something like this, because I know they got it from Harry and Meghan's team. And the point is that they got it from Harry and Meghan's team so that Meghan can dispute public narratives.
The second move, according to online chatter, is what really caught people's attention. Her Instagram had been quiet for weeks. Then suddenly it filled up with holiday photos. Look, we're in love. Look, the beach. And there was the picture-perfect family incident, all landing at exactly the right moment. The posts appeared on the same day as a certain young prince's birthday, which led critics online to argue that the working royals could not even have one calm day to themselves. People on social media read it as yet another calculated timing choice. She just cannot seem to avoid that kind of reaction. Funny that. And that is exactly why people are reading so much into every little move that follows. Once the conversation shifts from one alleged set issue to the public image side of things, even ordinary updates start getting treated like messages, not just posts. That is what keeps the speculation alive, because online audiences are no longer looking at a single moment. They are watching the response, the timing, and the tone of everything that comes after. Supporters may see it as harmless, but critics online argue it looks too carefully timed to ignore. That kind of reaction does not settle anything, of course, and no official explanation has changed the chatter. Instead, it has kept the whole discussion moving, with people comparing notes, questioning motives, and debating whether these are just coincidences or something more deliberate. So the focus now is not only on what was said behind the scenes, it is also on how the public story is being managed in real time. And in celebrity commentary, that second part can matter just as much as the first.
She's attempting to deflect from negative headlines in People magazine, and it's not going to work. And she's also probably trying to distract from Prince Harry's horrific last couple of weeks, where he face planted so hard into the UK, he left an imprint of his face and got utterly humiliated by the High Court.
But the one she arguably should have avoided posting was the photo from Althorpe, the place where Diana rests. In between the beach shots and the smoothie pictures, she slipped in an image from Diana's family home, and online critics were quick to say it felt like scenery chosen for branding. One viewer put it bluntly, saying, "Nothing is sacred to this woman. She's drowning in a scandal about her own cruelty, so she reaches for her tragic passing mother-in-law's home to make herself look soft." That kind of reaction says a lot. If you want to read it kindly, maybe it was meant as a nod to grief, but to a lot of people it looked much more like a carefully staged photo moment. And that is why the same conversation keeps coming back to her, from the judge reaction to the magazine rollout, to the timing around the child's birthday, and now this. Critics online are treating it as one long pattern, with the image management and the controversy moving side by side.
She creates this imaginary slight so as not to take accountability for her behavior. And the fact that the royal family are still going at it and endorsing this behavior, it's not helpful. But good on Chef Poh for actually speaking out and exposing her, because I know there's been some clips of Chef Poh talking about how wonderful and beautiful Meghan Markle is. That was at the early stages when they needed to promote this, when they needed to land this woman. The truth has finally come out.
So if you add up everything people keep talking about, the picture gets louder, even if she never would. There was the cooking show that earned a 0, recipes she has been accused of borrowing from other women, food she is said not to make herself, a model she was accused online of mocking on a runway, a judge reportedly left in tears on set, palace staff allegedly pushed to the edge, aides said to feel nervous before meetings, grown men reportedly in tears, and a so-called survivors club that critics say has her name all over it. 8 years, 3 continents, 1 woman, and, to critics online, the same pattern showing up again and again.
But I think enough is enough. This woman is a bitch. She's a bully.
Read that list back one more time. Every name on it is real, and every one of them, as critics online keep pointing out, was just trying to do their job. Yet, through all of it, she is portrayed as the queen, the kindness guru, the polished domestic icon of Montecito, or the wronged little princess, depending on which version of the story is being pushed. She is often described online as acting as if she is above everyone else, while lecturing the public about kindness and leaving a trail of upset reactions wherever she goes. People have mocked the contradiction, saying it looks like a person who is quick to tell chefs how to cook, despite not being known for cooking herself. Others point to clips and old comments where she appeared to laugh at people slipping or stumbling, then turn around and ask everyone else to be gentle. She seems to embrace royalty when the title works for her, then distance herself from it the moment it does not. To critics, it looks like kindness on a Monday and tears by Tuesday, with the belief that no one will notice and nothing will stick. No official finding changes the online chatter, no cleanup effort fully shuts it down, and the Instagram refresh only seems to move the discussion along. Then it is on to the next kitchen, the next set, the next person who, according to the commentary, never sees it coming. And that is why the reaction keeps stretching far beyond a single post or a single moment. Once people start seeing a pattern, every new detail gets pulled into the same debate, and the internet does what it always does. It connects the dots, fair or not. What may look like a simple update to one person can feel like another calculated move to the audience already watching closely. That is also why the criticism does not really fade, even when the story shifts. Supporters may call it overblown, but the commentary keeps circling back to the same questions about timing, image, and intent. And because none of it comes with clear public answers, the speculation only gets louder. So the conversation stays stuck in that uncomfortable middle ground, where nothing is fully raised questions about, but nothing is really forgotten either. Every fresh appearance, every polished post, and every carefully chosen setting gets measured against everything people think they have already seen. That is the part keeping this whole story alive, because once a public figure is tied to that kind of scrutiny, even the quiet moments can start sounding very loud. To critics online, it looks like the mask never really slips, or at least not on her side of the story. They say it seems to fall on someone else instead, and by the time that person has even recovered, she is already back in front of the cameras, smiling and talking about kindness. Poh, love, you might be in that same camp now. It is a rather unsettling club these days, sadly, and from the outside, it looks like you would fit right in. So the question people keep tossing around is, how many is it now? Count them up, name by name, because even the people who follow this stuff for a living seem worn out by it. Who is next in the line of criticism around Meghan, and does she ever face any real consequence when another controversy starts up?
They're wondering whether this marriage can survive it. For now, the Sussexes remain together publicly, but behind palace and Hollywood doors, the whispers are growing louder that they may be entering a very different solo chapter.
Drop your verdict in the comments, because I read every single one. If this story has you thinking about that whole pattern people keep talking about, hit like, subscribe, share it with someone following the Montecito drama, and comment your take. There is more on the way this week, and you will want to stay tuned for the next one. See you on the next one.